Evike 650 here, and today we're going to crack open the box here of the VFC 416. I've already taken it out over here, so we're just going to tear it down and get into the gearbox, and we're going to take a good look of what parts we could find in here, and kind of my rough estimate of how quality the parts are. Additionally, I will have my caliper, and there will be a brief pause in the video here when I get to the gears. I'm going to count each individual tooth so that way everyone out there will actually know its actual gear ratio. So I'm going to fast forward through a lot of taking this down. It's not going to be the big focus of the video. It's going to be what's inside here. Alright, I can tell that we are not off to the best start. I had stripped the screw on one of these parts here. Let's take a kind of a quick look here at the cap. The cap is all plastic. You can see this motor height adjustment screw. I do like how VFC does do this one large screw here, but it's only two little areas here that actually hold down the, oops, a little confusing here, camera's backwards. So because of that, you're really relying on the structure, the structure of this plastic bit. I have heard rumors that the casting areas here and here are actually meant to be drilled out if you want to increase cooling and airflow. I don't think the rear ones are like that, but just kind of keep in mind those are really casting marks when they actually mold this. So I really don't know if that is what they are meant for. It'll be kind of interesting. Some people I think have been doing it, but it's just so close to the ridge here. I would actually be kind of afraid that would affect the structure of it. Alright, let's continue opening it up here. Hopefully we will not have any more issues, but doesn't really feel anything special. It turns pretty easy. They are claiming it is a neodyme motor, but not that torquey. Alright, so I got the magazine catch out, and it appears that the screw that you use to unscrew it, which is mounted on the top, the more you screw that in, that's what does the adjustment. I think as I was actually loosening it, it was actually getting tighter and tighter. Now, something to note, this part right here and here, this is kind of sandwiched in between the gearbox, so I imagine this is going to make it a little tricky when we put everything back together again. So just kind of keep that in mind, how the mag catch works. And this is really more of externals. I'm keeping the little itty bitty tiny Allen screw and wrench in here just so I don't lose them. Alright, we successfully took it out of the receiver. Something to note is that you will need to remove the bolt catch system on there. And what I did for that is when I got most of the gearbox loosened, I'm not going to do a video on the disassembly, but what I did is I tilted this up above the frame and I unscrewed the right side of the bolt catch, and then on the left side all you have to do is punch the pin in. So, got the spring out. Just looks like a standard M120 spring, and you got your spring guide. So let's open up the rest of this gearbox and see what we got in here. Something to note with the bearings here is that they're pretty low profile to the box. Something I had a problem with my VFC Scar, and I'm comparing it a lot because this is they're both VFC products, is when I had bigger bearings on here, they were raised slightly, which interfered with the ambidextrous system on that gearbox on the Scar. So this, I'm going to be a little careful about this. I'm probably going to swap these out for bushings. They're not as efficient, but I'm planning on doing some pre-caulking with this gun, and I would like to kind of give it that little bit of extra strength. Talking about what I can just see from this gearbox, it just looks like kind of a standard casted gearbox. They are not radiused up front, so when I do the gear upgrade on this, I will probably add the radiusing and then do an internal polish on all the moving tracks to ensure a nice smooth. Haven't really decided whether or not I wanted to do a dual sector gear build on this. I might just keep it simple. Alright, let's crack it open. Alright, so I'm going to look at the compression parts here. Good compression, actually. Quite happy. Polymer piston head. A O-ringed nozzle. And my VFC Scar, it came with more of a polycarbonate. This has more of kind of a nylon plastic feel, so it feels a lot stronger. A little closer to a garter, but I think a garter is still a better quality. Aluminum piston head, not a big fan of that. O-ring, it was showing good compression. Half teeth, half polymer. So overall, pretty good if you're not going to have a very fine-tuned AEG. This area looks nice and reinforced, and this has been shaved down. And we'll check the engagement. That's where it's engaging. So it's pretty much almost at the 1 o'clock instead of slightly a little past noon, which is where you want to get it. So engagement looks to be pretty bad. Now the gears, let's get a close-up of the gears here. Gears here look to be a pretty good quality. They don't look like they're CNC'd gear. They are supposed to be heat treated. They do look pretty solid. That probably came off the sector gear. I've never had a problem with VFC gears, so I really cannot complain about them. Now, on the good news, if you look at this gear right here, you got your delay clipped here. It looks pretty solid. And here's the good news. No self-shimming gears anymore. That's very good news. Alright, I'm going to count the teeth here and I'll get back here to let you know. Overall, the gears look pretty solid. I'm beginning to think that maybe it needs a reshim because we have a lot of reports that these are pretty whiny guns. If VFC's been using self-shimming gears, you have to question whether or not how good their factory shimming job is, which they may not have a good shimming job in there. Alright, so I'll count the gears and we'll look at the rest of the gearbox. Alright, so I counted the gears. It's looking to be, I probably miscounted it somewhere here, but we're looking to be around it showed about 16.9 to 1 ratio, so you're looking at around that. And that sounds about right, something around the 16. You can see the integrated Mosfet here. It doesn't look like it has any coatings or anything. Something to note, it's still operating on a traditional trolley and track system. It doesn't have any sector gear monitoring. Quite honestly, I think, you know, VFC put together a pretty decent gearbox. Definitely much better than what they've done in the past. It's definitely a high quality gearbox. Yeah, you know, KWA's, Crytek's are known for being very robust and stuff, but they also had to modify their gearbox. For a gearbox that is standard Marui spec, it's a really great gearbox, I think, for the money. Most techs are going to be like, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah is better. You know, I could build something better. Yeah, but you're putting in specially selected, highly individual parts. This has to be kind of mass-produced, so I'm quite happy about it. Still probably going to tech it. I still like SAHS gears or Siege Tech gears because I do like to push the performance, but you won't be going wrong with anything. I'm definitely going to replace the MOSFET for a Loctited as soon as I can. So I'm going to put this gearbox back together. I don't really see anything wrong with it. I think it's a great gearbox. I've had very good luck with VFC gearboxes in the past, and that's was when they had plastic bushings. So this, quite honestly, I would feel comfortable actually not upgrading any of this and just running it stock for quite some time. It's looking to be heads a lot better, and I tortured my VFC scar extensively, and the failure point were the bushings because they're plastic. So it looks to be really great. Pulling it out of the gun looks a little bit complicated. I'm going to be working on a few of those external problems and stuff to see how you can just smooth out. Overall, though, I think it is a great gun so far. I sometimes seem a little harsh. I'm just being really nitpicky to try and narrow down how can I make this great product even better. So that is my review on the VFC Avalon Series ECS gearbox found in the 416. Looks great. They've definitely made some improvements. I think probably the best thing though so far is that there is no longer any self-shimming gears. Alright, so I just put it together here really quickly to check the motor height and the bevel gear meshing, and it does seem like the bevel gear needs to be lowered quite a bit, and it's just not meshing. So that's probably what a lot of these reports of having slightly whiny 416s is. The bevel gear is just it's just shimmed way too high, so it's not getting a good contact mesh. So here's the bevel gear and its gears right here. Here's your motor. The motor is just mounted too low, so it's just like barely making contact, and that's probably what's causing all that noise. So then it's going to have to get a reshim, so I think that will fix most of the problem. So Evike I 650 here. Everyone have a good day. Hey, Evike I 650 here. I've been working on, so this video is coming out a few months after I actually did the strip and the initial look at my 416 back there. You know, everyone's tech desk here is a little messy. I've been working on a lot of interesting projects and stuff lately on this bench here, so that's why it's much more mess than normal. I've spent about a month taking apart my 416, putting it back together again, and actually I've ended up stripping almost all of it out, and pretty much the only 3 parts that are still stock in it are my anti-reversal latch and it's the associated spring with that, as well as my VFC, the air nozzle, front air nozzle. Other than that, everything's been stripped out. It's using a PDI barrel, whole hop up, a Max M8 Pro, working great. ASG, pretty much very close to what Umbrella Armory does. I did pretty much a very close build on that. So I'll probably come out with all the parts and stuff, but you know, full tooth piston, short stroked. New motor, kind of built together a Franken torque motor. It's out of G&G armature and an element can, so it's getting really, it's a 27 TPA motor with Neomegs, so it's really nice and torquey. Got a Lonex bevel and spiral gear. Really nice and quiet. A bit of a pain to install, but nothing too bad for any tech. Just kind of take your time, and then you're just going to have to go in there and make some motor height adjustments. Now, some things I did discover. Let's see. The little thing right over here, I did figure out what that is. That actually, if you look over here, actually helps hold the cap on here. Pretty cool, considering I was a little concerned just those 2 screws holding it. My only concern is that in order to do motor height adjustment, you actually have to remove that little bit there. So it's actually changing a little bit of what that base plate pressure is. So I haven't really got any issues with it, but just kind of keep that in mind that, you know, when you do shim your beveled pinion, that I haven't run into a problem, but if you're really nitpicking, you just understand that the pressure is going to be just slightly different, and you're going to have to kind of go back there and fine tune it a little bit. What I found about the VFC Gears, the good news is VFC Gears right over here, they're no longer self-shimming, which I think is really great. But if you look at the shaft over here, I actually replaced the shaft over here trying to get a really good shim, get really good shimming on it. I couldn't really do it with the stock gears. The shafts don't give you enough room to really fine-tune shim it like SHS gears or other gear sets on the market. So VFC designed the gears, and it comes out of the factory being shimmed to the spur, not to the beveled pinion. So it's using an old school shimming method. I'm not too big of a fan. Some people are a little picky about that. If you want perfect, really have really great shimming in this gun, you're going to have to get a new gear set. There's just stock gears won't let you get a really good beveled pinion shim. The AOE, when did the video, I thought probably would have been an issue. I said it was pretty bad, but apparently a lot of people have been raving about Avalon's not having an issue. Now, Jet Desert Fox, he stripped his piston, which kind of threw a red flag at me. No, that AOA is a big issue. So one of the things I did is I put a full tooth piston. I did the Evike Kraken, which was developed with co-op with Umbrella Armory. It's pretty nice piston. I don't think it's worth the price tag though. I would just recommend someone get a SHS piston and Swiss cheese mod it, and I did Swiss cheese mod that $30 piston. So, and that's kind of, I took that risk to find out how good I thought it might be, and it may be great. I still think SHS pistons are probably going to be your best bet. So the biggest issue I have with this gun is that it's advertised to come with a neo magnet motor. It does not. It's a ferrite motor. I compared it to my old motor on my VFC 416 inch, or not 416, Scar L, the Mark 16, and it's identical motor. I took apart the motor. It's those dark gray, near black ferrite magnets. It's not a neo magnet motor as they advertise it. Is this something on Elite Force's part, or people are advertising it? Probably not. What most likely happened is VFC made a change, and I've heard some of the newer Avalons don't have the great neo mag motors. They have ferrite motors, and I think that happened to the 416. They just did that across the board, and they didn't. There's communication breakdown. Elite Force thought they was getting with Neomags, and everyone else is advertising that it comes with magnets, and they don't. They come with an okay ferrite magnet. When I hooked it up, of course, one of the mini mods, I put a Titan in there for pre-cocking, and for those who know me, I'm obsessed with sector gear monitoring, Mosfets. What it is, when I looked at the power draws with the stock, everything stock, with the 16:1 gear ratio, with the stock motors, it was showing a power draw of about 30 on full auto and about 58, 60-ish amp draws on semi. Since it's supposed to be my more of my mil-sim gun, to me, that's a bit problematic, and I would be very concerned with stock 416s because the limited battery space means that you need to have either a LiPo. In general, you need to have a LiPo that can withstand a very demanding power draw that a ferrite motor would need to be torquey enough to turn 16:1 gears. So you're having a really high amp draw. So you need to have either a small high discharge LiPo. So like in this case, you would probably be looking at let's see, this is kind of my higher one. It's a Rhino 30C, and that 30C is not really, means it's really not meant, you're really wanting to get about probably, if it's 1,000 milliamps, and I know it's drawing about 60, close to 60 amps on the draw, you want to have something that can feed that. So you'll probably need a 60C 1,000 milliamp battery somehow to fit in that and then this small thing, or get rid of it, go with a normal cell, go with normal 20Cs, 2000 milliamp batteries, which still, that's only giving you 40 amps, so you're overdrawing it still, and get something like a crane stock, or go with the EPS, because why wouldn't you go with an EPS in this day and age? There's not that many competitors. There's a few close, but come on, really. PTS. So, what I did though is, because I stripped it out, I went with a higher TPA motor, which has a lower power draw. I went with 13.1 SHS gears, which is, they're really not 13, they're like 13 point something. They're actually closer to 14-1, depending on which direction you round. And I think it's really close to 14-1s. But when I put the TPA motor, a higher TPA motor in there with neo magnets, so you know that's what you want, I got the power draw down for full auto to about 17 amps, and then semi to 30. That's kind of a little closer to where you want to be, because it gives you a little more flexibility on what LiPo battery you can put in there. So there's a bit of a design flaw. I don't think they really accounted for it. When I asked VFC, I emailed them on what the motor was. I asked them for the specs. Hey, I got a 416. I need specs on this. I need what's the TPA armature? What's the wire? And you know, these don't look like ferrite. These look like ferrite magnets, not neo. And you can just test that with you look how strong they are, and they're weak. And they responded back, we recommend you run a 11.1 volt, 1000 milliamp, 15C LiPo with it. And first off, that wasn't actually answering my question, because I was acting for technical specs, but they also gave me bad advice, because what my Titan was showing, that under their current configuration like that, you could be running into some issues with damaging your LiPos, because the amp draw is going to be so high, and it's going to cause a lot of stress on those LiPos. So I would not recommend, if you have a 416, either strip it out like what I did. It's expensive, or make sure you get a battery that can feed it. And definitely go with a Neocan, because that's probably going to be the cheapest, easiest fix, is get that motor replaced, because the current configuration with the motor it has, it's going to damage your batteries. So, do I regret this purchase of this beautiful 416 back here? Should I have gone with a Crytek? Well, you can answer those. You can argue about that over in the comments section, but quite honestly, since I'm a tech, I gut everything. And I knew that this was going to be the case, that I was going to gut this gun. I was buying it for the externals. Now, does that mean the 416 is a good newbie gun? Absolutely not. There's some issues in the configuration, which potentially is a little dangerous, because you're going to be killing LiPos left and right. And you don't want to have a gun that's doing that, even though LiPos are pretty cheap in this day and age. The Avalon still may be good, but I honestly haven't taken apart an Avalon, so I don't know, and I've never taken apart a Crytek, and I know they had their issues with upgrading them. So kind of in general, I still recommend, if I was going to buy the gun and just not touch it, I probably would have gone with the Crytek, but since I can't hold myself from stripping out every single piece in here and upgrading it and fine-tuning it, the 416 made a lot more sense because of the external qualities, and I really do love how the takedown pins actually are retained in it, just like my real AR. So there's a lot of things I like about the VFC in terms of design. I do, though, believe that their current configuration is potentially undesirable. So I would recommend, you pull that motor out and make sure that you have a neodyne magnet in there to handle the increased draw. So sorry this video is a little late, but that's just what when I started running into these issues, I really wanted to get down into it. Overall, teching on the gun, they do over-tighten all the bolts, especially on the mag catch over here for the adjustable one. It got so bad that I bought a little a little bag of 100 of these little screws because they strip really easily. It does take a 0.9 millimeter wrench, but because they're so small, they strip really easily. So I just bought a whole bag of them just in case. I think it cost me like 12 bucks just to get in there. So I haven't fix out the wobbly issue here, and this thing still makes a lot of clanging and banging. Those are minor issues compared to some of the tech stuff I found on it. Just be careful, everything's over time. Be aware that the barrel nut here is glued on here, so you're going to have to take a heat gun to it. For the most part, you don't have to really take it off, so I would just leave it alone. But that's just something I felt like everyone should know about the 416 and some of its potential issues that it has. I still think it's a beautiful gun. It's and I've made it into a great gun here. So it's definitely a good building platform for those interested in it. If you want advice for good guns that are new out of the box, I'm probably not going to be the best person to ask. But I do have a few recommendations. This is clearly, unfortunately, just like my Masada, it's more of a gun for techs. So hope you guys like this. This is, nowhere near to the same quality as my ACR videos and stuff. I'm just trying to get these out quick and dirty. I'm very busy with, I took a second job, so, extra busy, and I'm also trying to get out of the field more, which is one of the reasons why I took the second job, so I can play a little more and talk a little less. So Baconator 650.